Yeah.
Right, here we are. It's Keith Hayes with Mirador Television and the young and vibrant Max Hurd at the controls and making his comments, which he will be doing at 9:30 when we have Age and Youth. Well, good morning, and it is bloody cold out there. It's not going to go much above 2 degrees today. And Max, check on the temperature right now.
It's -4.
-4. There we go. It's -4 degrees right now, and that's why I'm wrapped up, because I'm only passing through this morning. The real heat is going to come from young Max here, along with Liza Page at 9:30 when they present Age and Youth and give the alternative view, sometimes very controversial thoughts and ideas. And this morning, one of the things that I'm sure that they're going to focus on is a Peter Hitchens article in the Mail, which says Britain is slowly turning into a version of the mad old East Germany, with equality and diversity the new Marxism. And even worse, says Hitchens, it's happening under the Tories. Will you be talking about that, Max?
Yeah, we will definitely talk about that. But Liza has recently gone off of Peter Hitchens. Not a big fan of his.
Well, it doesn't matter. That's beside the point.
Yeah.
This
But
is
it's
what
still
he's
an interesting
written.
story.
Never mind the author. Is the thought is what he's saying have merit? Does it have legs, or is it just the failings of somebody who is like me, known as the Mouth? So anyway, I'll leave that to you two at 9:30, and that is on the inside pages of the Mail. So shall we go to the papers right now?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, right. Now, there are, after the tragedy of the boys falling through the ice, what we've got today is that there are 4 dead, at least 4 dead, after a migrant dinghy sinks in the channel. However, the heroics of some fishermen, a fishing boat, when the raft dinghy started to sink, they spotted a fishing boat made towards it, and the skipper saved, I think, about 38 of them, even though they lost 4 in the cold waters of the Channel. So that's the main story. 4 dead after the migrant dinghy sinks in the Channel. The Eye, please help us. A desperate plea from the sinking migrant boat. And the Eye says, water is coming in. Please help. That was a desperate plea trapped on a sinking boat in the Channel. And that was made during a harrowing 22-second call for help. The paper says the PM expressed his deep sorrow at the tragedy. Well, that's all right, isn't it? Terribly sorry that's happened. But every attempt to try and stop this traffic, this small boats heading over where they're paying 5,000 quid a head to try and get to Britain, has been thwarted one way or another, either by France or by our own people who say it is dreadful to keep people out. Well, be it on your heads, on all your heads, because if the tragedy is happening, we should do everything we can, and to hell with what's right and what's wrong and what's politically correct, is we should be making sure that this traffic is stopped so that people aren't put into this sort of danger. Do we do it? No, because we're also proper. We're also, as Hitchens says, diversity and equality. My God, have we got a conscience, a national conscience? I don't think so. I think that we've gone mad as a nation, and it's about time we put things right. Yeah. That's a good rant. I feel much better after that one. The Sun. A £5,000 ticket to death, it says, and 4 die in the freezing Channel. It carries on with that theme that the brave fishermen tried to save as many of these people as they could, but they were unable to save 4 out of about 50, I guess. The Guardian. It, of course, ignores all this sort of stuff, and it goes, a scathing report condemns police for victim blaming in rape cases. Now, what that paper says is that a report into how police forces tackle rape cases has exposed explicit victim blaming and failings in the criminal justice system. The report analyzes 80,000 rape reports across 5 police forces. The paper says, The Guardian says, the papers, that's the claim of the paper. Elsewhere, it says the main image is of a crew on board a fishing vessel helping to rescue the survivors trapped on the boat which sank in the Channel. The Mirror. You cared for us when we needed it most. Now the decent people of Britain say to our nurses, we are with you. Right, well, the Mirror is supporting the strike, and it says something like 57% of those people polled are supportive of the nurses. And I think we are all supportive of the nurses case. But the point really is going on strike and putting cancer victims particularly, but others as well.
And also, I'm not sure how accurate those polls are, because I personally don't know. I know very few people who support this strike, just like the trains. It's the trains say, oh, we have a 40% of the public agrees with us. What where?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, these polls are notoriously inaccurate. I mean, they have failed miserably at past elections. And they I don't know where they get their correspondence from. But then nonetheless, people go with them, so people interpret them as they are. I agree with you. I don't see that there is much support for any of these strikes. It is making life a misery, and they've chosen Christmas, and that's not at all a nice time to.
Well, they've done it
do it to anything. Yeah.
But the Mirror's pledge here, it says at the top corner of the Mirror.
Yeah, Mirror is pledging what?
I don't know. It doesn't really make sense.
I think it's saying we pledge our support. We're with you. We are with you is the main headline. Well, the Mirror is the Mirror. It's the left-wing newspaper. At one time, it was a very respectable paper. Not anymore. It's just become a bit like the Sun. If they can get a boob story in there, they will. Daily Express. Give nurses a deal and stop this madness. Well, the Express, which is normally a government newspaper, it says nurses who are striking today have the public's backing. A poll suggests 52% of voters strongly support healthcare workers, while 27% are opposed. And that comes out of the Express, and that is a bit surprising. The Express is not the most widely read newspaper, but nonetheless, it is the most supportive of the Tory administration. So I suppose that you're right, Max. One can never trust the polls and the pollsters, but it does look a little bit of looking into. Certainly, I think they're asking for something like 18 or 19% rise, aren't they? Which is ridiculous. And to go on strike for that is madness. That is madness. But also, the government is standing firm simply because, as we reported yesterday, and as came out of the Financial Times, is the higher that we push wages, is the more prices will go up. So it's a never-ending cycle, and that will stoke inflation. And inflation came down marginally this past month. So even then, the Bank of England is going to put up interest rates a little bit more in an attempt to stop it. And that's in concert with the Federal Reserve in the United States, which is the equivalent of the Bank of England, Bank of America, if you like. And they are nudging up interest rates as well to try and contain inflation over there. Daily Telegraph. Damage of nurses' strikes will get worse. Right, okay. Just before we go to that, there is a second headline in the Daily Telegraph, which is quite interesting. And apparently, melting ice brings a Chinese threat closer. And that comes from our defense chief, who says the melting ice is opening up the North Atlantic to the Chinese. They've been stopped from ever sending ships or so on because of the ice flow. They just simply couldn't get through it. But now these are melting, and that'll give them a passageway into the North Atlantic so they can send some of their ships through. Interesting article. But the Financial Times, the Telegraph leads with a warning from hospital leaders who say that the damage of nurses' strikes will get worse as longer walkouts could affect end-of-life care. Health service chiefs wrote to all NHS trusts yesterday saying they had real concerns about the level of risk to patients. Financial Times. The Fed's half-point rate rise sets the tone for a slower squeeze on the eve of the Bank of England decision. What they're saying is that at one time you would perhaps see interest rates go up, say half a percent. And now they're doing it as just a quarter of a percent. And what they're saying is this is just a bit at a time to react to conditions. That's the way that the Fed is doing it, and that's the way that the Bank of England is going to copy. The Daily Star. Critters enjoying the Royal Mail strike. Good for the Star. It goes off on a tangent as it normally does.
Oh, it's not broken, because on here it's broken. This is the Star's headline.
Oh
here.
dear, yeah. Well, it's not broken on here. It just seems not to want to come through on there for some reason. So never mind. We'll remove it. We'll just tell you what it's doing. It's tough luck, kid. Your presents have been eaten by foxes. And what it says is that because of the strikes, the parcels and cards and all the Christmas goodie things are all piling up at post office depots, piling up to the point where they can't protect them in any way, and that the foxes and rats have been nibbling away, enjoying all the Christmas good things that are in these things, and they, in fact, just having a jolly good Christmas ahead of time. And when you get your parcel, it may be that there's a little nibble through. Now, I don't know when I'm going to get my parcel, but I do know that my daughter has decided that she will get me a Christmas hamper and send it to me. Well, Christmas hamper. She. Well, I hope it gets there. The one thing that they can't nibble on, I don't think, is it always has a bottle of wine in it. So the bottle of wine will be safe, even if the Christmas pud gets eaten by Mr. Reynard. Have you got anything coming in the post that can be edible?
Probably just whiskey.
No, you're all right too. We drinkers are okay. It's people who love the food that. He's right. All right, very quickly, let's take a look at the local news to see if there's anything of any worth there. Right. Today's highlights is scarlet fever cases are beginning to gain ground across the country, and there are some in Sussex. The big freeze to finally end as Sussex forecasts warmer temperatures. The council buys Southern Ward headquarters at 21 million. That's an investment project. Let's see who that is.
Yeah,
the Worthing Council. Yeah, and what have they bought? Southern Water headquarters in Worthing. Oh, right. So, okay, they bought it locally. And a major Gatwick security rule change coming very soon. We'll see the 100 milliliter liquid limit scrapped. You've only been able to take a very little liquid on board, and other restrictions, and that's coming to an end to make it easier to get on board and not have to go through silly security checks.
Yeah, that was a worldwide thing because of one guy.
One guy? What was that?
One guy who smuggled a bomb onto a plane in a water bottle.
Right, yeah. It is that, but you only need one bomb on board. I see that they actually got before the courts the man who masterminded the Lockerbie bombing of Pan Am, which was about 1980 something, I think. And they are just now bringing him before the courts, and apparently they've had to make a promise to get him to make any sort of recount, is that he won't face the death penalty. There we go. Live Crawley traffic updates after a two-car crash on a major route near M23. That was yesterday, so I don't think that's going to affect us too much today. Freddie Flintoff, the cricketer, was. I always love this. Some years ago now, but the Belfast Telegraph, when the Pope John, I think it was, went from Rome to New York, he flew the polar route, and that takes in a little bit of Northern Ireland. And the Belfast Telegraph headline was "Pope flies over Ulster." And this is a bit of a similar story. Freddie Flintoff airlifted to hospital after a crash while filming near Sussex. Let's make it local. He crashed while he's filming near Sussex. I mean, it just
Sussex is a pretty big place.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, you know, even if it's near Sussex, is that really a story, a local story? And campaigners sing anti-bypass carols, opposing a completely flawed A27 plan. And school is forced to end term early due to no heating, and others are closing for the same reason. And the latest one is only 4 Afghan people resettled in the UK, all in Sussex, after the United Nations referral trying to look after people coming out of Afghan lost its headline status. There we go. Those are the local headlines. And as I say, let's see once again. Let's get Lewis weather. And basically, it's only going to hit 1 degree today. I was wrong in saying 2. It's a -4 now. It still is. It's -4 now, and it's not getting any warmer at the moment. And it's going to hit 1, and that will be about 2 o'clock this afternoon after we get a bout of sunshine, which will start at about 11 o'clock this morning and last through until 4 o'clock this afternoon. And then when we go into the early night, as we do now, that will stay clear until about 7 o'clock. There's a gentle breeze, it says, so sunny and a gentle breeze, but bloody cold indeed. Right, young Max, where are you taking me now?
We could go to Like Lewis. Do that.
Right.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay. Well, I'm just watching to see what you've got coming up.
Like
But I know
Lewis.
you actually put out something we did show yesterday, I think. No, or did we or didn't we? Is Sarah Fitch Hayes and the interview that we did with her towards the end of last week. She's always great fun and so on. And it has been shown as a Mirador special last night. It's about what time?
6.
About 6 o'clock last night. But I think that it bears some repeat this morning for those people who wouldn't know that we go on the air sporadically throughout the day. Is that what you like to play?
Oh, well, we can show that later, but I said Like Lewis.
Oh, right. You would want to show Like Lewis.
Or, I mean, the other one is also on the desktop. We can show that now if you want.
Yes, let's.
Okay.
I think it's rather nice.
All right.
And she is a barrel of fun, a real barrel of fun. We've also been asked if we will interview a Brighton artist who is going to have her paintings hung in the All Saints Centre during the January book fair. Actually, it's not a book fair; it's a book festival in which authors come and talk about their books. And this year, it's got 3 showings: one in January, one in March, and then another one comes along sometime in the late summer, June or July. The entrepreneur who does it, Mark Rattray, will hopefully be on next week with us to talk about it. But it's always well worthwhile and quite often sold out. But this year, for the first time, they're going to actually focus on an artist. So that's good stuff. We'll do that. But in the meantime, our very own Sarah is here.
All right. Here we go.
Entered December, heading towards Christmas. Whoop-de-doo! Except sometimes I think that the Grinch stole Christmas from Lewis High Street. But we've got a little bit of fun and games today, haven't we?
Oh, yes.
We have.
Life is full of surprises.
Absolutely. And the first thing is, I like to always celebrate these things with a drink. Woo! Gobbly, gobbly, gobbly. What have we got here?
Ta-da!
Ah!
This is the
And
Harleys.
this is the bottle we've been following.
We have.
We have indeed.
It's been complete now for 2 weeks, but because I've been so busy with other things, I haven't had a chance to drop by and catch up with you. But that's the chappy there.
Yes.
So now
Oh, look, it's got the froth and everything we
it
talked
has.
about.
Yes, it has indeed. Yes. There's the froth. So what I've done, I've made the froth not so shiny because it's kind of got that matte.
Right.
It hasn't got that brightness about it, but the actual bottle is nice and bright and shiny. You can see if I wave that about the canvas, you'll see it shimmers.
Now, I've gone to bed dreaming about this day in, day out, but other people will have forgotten what we were talking about. So talk us through how we got onto this and how to make it, how to make it a subject.
Right, well, as you know, I love doing vintage food, and I think all the viewers may know if they follow myself and yourself together on these chats and stuff. I love doing vintage food and drinks and merry-go-rounds and just nice old-fashioned things, you know, like bubble gum machines, Coca-Cola bottles with a nice sort of, the straw that has the red and white going up.
Right.
So, and
Lollipops.
I thought, lollipops, that's right, ice creams, you name it, it's there, you know. And this little chappie, I thought, well, hang on a minute, because they're actually doing away with these smaller bottles. This size bottle is becoming extinct, basically, because they decided don't sell so much off the shelves.
Oh,
So
really?
they're keeping to the big, this is a bit of research that I was doing when I was chatting to them. And
You
I
went and
thought,
chatted to them, did you? You
I
went to
haven't
ask them about the
I
bottles?
haven't met Mr. Jenny yet, but I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But basically, the deal was that I went in the shop and I talked to these people working in the shop. Oh, I'm painting some bottles, and they said, oh, come and choose some bottles. It was really lovely. And I was saying, well, how come we don't do many of the smaller sizes then? And they said, oh, we are doing away with them simply because the bigger ones are more in demand.
Oh, really?
So it's more to drink and get merry and be cheerful. And go,
Yes,
hey,
people are drinking more.
well, after all these times, I think you don't blame them, do you really? so that's why I thought this is a really good thing to do. You paint the nice small bottles before they go, before they disappear off the shelves, basically.
Absolutely.
So
That's
this is
brilliant.
it. And I've popped in there about 4 times into the shop. And Mr. Jenner, I tell you, he's hard to get hold of.
Oh, I know.
He's like a witch in the wind, It's,
Yeah.
But
Well,
anyway,
I
I'm
mean,
not
he's
gonna-
also, I think, the High Sheriff of East Sussex, or
Oh,
of
wow.
Sussex, I suppose. So that keeps him busy as well.
Oh,
I
it
think he
does,
has to put
yeah.
on these this sort of velvet knickerbocker thing and turn up at various things. So it is
Oh,
keeping him.
wow.
And of course, 2 things perhaps. If we can digress for a moment, is he was master of, I think it's the Brewers Hall in London. They have these,
Right. That sounds interesting.
what do they call them? They're guilds.
Oh, guilt, okay.
And he was the chairman or the president or whatever that. And in fact, that was the reason, I think, is why the Queen came to visit Harvey's not too long ago. I mean,
I
not,
think
not
she
too
did
long
go to this.
before.
Was it about 3 years ago?
About something like that,
Something-
yeah.
Something
Yeah.
like that, wasn't it?
So
Yes.
he's a man that's very much in demand for various things. Anyway, I digressed.
That's okay.
Carry on. Right.
No,
So
it's-
you were in talking to the people in the shop,
And,
and they said, "Here, have as many bottles as you want."
Not quite as many as I wanted, but But
Yeah.
I'm not going to be greedy. It's not
No,
about being
no,
greedy. I
quite,
just
quite.
came in, bought a couple, got a couple as well, and I've got 4 different flavours or brews. I don't know what you call it. Do you call it a flavour, or is it a different brew,
Or a taste, or whatever?
taste,
Yeah.
or- So I was thinking about doing like maybe 3 of these other ones like this in the same sort of size bottle, but just with different labels.
No, I think that would be a very good idea. A
Postcard.
set of 4.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. See, I want to
Absolutely.
create it into a postcard, so people, our Lewis folk, can actually think, oh, or even tourists
Yes.
can come in the shop and go, oh, that's nice. It's famous for the Harvey's brew, and therefore we've got a nice little postcard.
Yeah. Harvey's Brewery, I mean, we might as well talk about Harvey's Brewery a bit because this is what you've done. They're very interesting. I actually wrote a book 3 or 4 years ago with the inspiring title of Business Journalism. The publisher wouldn't let me give it a fancy name because they said, no, this is going into universities and that's what the students will be looking for. So they did. But I included Harvey's in as an example of they never advertise.
You're right,
They
don't
market in the sense that they get the community behind them and the community talks about them.
Backs them.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
a really good
you
idea,
can
advertising.
look
Yeah.
miles and miles and miles from here, and somebody say, Harvey's, oh, wonderful, yeah. And it's all because the community have taken to them and they involve themselves in the community, and it's their form of marketing, and it's so successful.
Well, it's funny enough you should say that. When I actually completed this piece, I think it was been 2.5, 3 weeks ago, I think it is actually, come to think of it. And I remember putting this on the Lewis Present. There's a Facebook page,
Oh,
Lewis
right,
Present.
yeah.
And I thought, well, hang on a minute, let's put it on there as well. So I had the opportunity to do that, and I put that on the website. But since putting that on the website, we've got a little family member that's joined our family.
Aha, right.
She's quite a little fairy friend. She's very beautiful, and her name is Minnie. So she's going to be joining.
And what is she?
She's a little French bulldog.
A French bulldog?
Yes,
A French bulldog?
a French.
As opposed to an English bulldog?
Yes.
Yeah.
So she's a little bit smaller, and her features are more softer.
Right.
She's-
Because isn't
she's
it
very
funny?
young,
Because one of the ladies who works here at the hotel showed me a picture of her dog, and it's an English bulldog. So yours is the second bulldog I've been introduced to today.
Oh wow, well, must be a catch, a phase of all bulldogs. Yeah,
And then that takes us to
yeah.
Bulldog Drummond. Neither of you remember who Bulldog Drummond is, do you? No. Well, nowadays you have detective novels and so on and so forth. Bulldog Drummond was, when I was a boy, was the detective. He was a sort of James Bond of his time, yeah. So you remember when you're looking at bulldogs, he's marvellous. Actually, I point to our director producer here, Max, and he pulls out his phone and he says, pull out your phone and say Bulldog Drummond and see what you get. So we've got a French bulldog, we've got an English bulldog, and we've got Bulldog Drummond the detective. And all because we have a bottle of Harvey's in front of us. Yeah.
That's funny how the conversation.
Now, tell me how you got this. I mean, did you go and get it to fizz, or is that a fizz of your imagination, or?
Well, I did. I got the bottle outside on a nice hot sunny day, not quite so hot, but warmish. Got the bottle, and what I thought I did the bottle on its own with the top on it. I thought it just doesn't look quite, hasn't got that pizzazz as much. Don't get me wrong, it's lovely. The bottle of Harvey's is there, and this label is there. But I thought, no, I need a bit more pizzazz, a bit more, a bit more life to it. So I thought, I know what to do. So I took the top off, and I thought, I just fizzed it up a little bit and just thought, see what happens. And not a lot really happened. So I really shook it, and I had to really hook the camera. And I had the camera in one hand, shaking the bottle, get my hand away from, and then as much as I could. So
and this is the result.
Yeah, that's the result. Yeah.
Oh, well, terrific. Well, now, turn it around and show it to me.
Yeah, sure.
We've shown everybody's seen it except me, really. That's fantastic. Oh, yes, and you've got the sheen of the glass, and this went on to Facebook.
I put it on Lewis President Facebook.
Oh, did you get many hits?
I think I can't remember now how many likes I got. Was it about 25 maybe?
Right.
Something like that.
Yeah. Excellent, excellent.
And talking,
Well, you better put it up a second and a third time.
Yeah,
What I've discovered about all this social media stuff is that people, they only go in so often, so they miss a lot because it scrolls down.
yeah,
So you have to keep on putting stuff at the top. So I think that should go up again. Yeah.
I'll put it on again.
Right, yes, absolutely. And then you put up your French bulldog.
I could put up Little Minnie.
Absolutely, Little Minnie. Is that
Yes.
Little
Her
Minnie?
name is actually Minnie.
Minnie.
Yeah.
And how old is she?
She's 2, just gone 2.
And,
2.5 now.
who's she been with prior to you?
Well, this is it. We don't know about the background. They've said she's been in about 2 or 3 homes, and and I think she's had litters as well. So I think they used her for breeding.
Right. She's of gentle nature?
She is with humans, but with the dog in species, she has a lot to be desired. Yeah, we're working on it. We've got the trainer coming in and helping us. And
when I lived in Canada, we had a Great Dane,
oh wow!
and he was 3 inches taller at the shoulder, which is how they measure the height, than the average Great Dane. He was as soft as a brush. We would have a cocktail party, he would lie there, people could tread on him and so on and so forth. Show him another dog.
This is Minnie. She's the most beautiful animal. She'll play with you, do tug of war. She's such a beautiful animal. The moment she sees another dog, so she goes into operatic mode, and it's stop Minnie.
Oh, well, that's okay. As long as she's good with humans, that's the main thing.
Yeah, she is.
That's lovely. Okay, so now let us turn to the season. The season to be jolly. Absolutely. What have you got in mind for Christmas?
Well, we know the Black Friday is just gone.
Oh, yeah.
We did some discount with some of my work, and I have more paintings sold. So
Oh,
that's
did you?
amazing. Yes,
Yeah.
I did.
Where from?
Ones, but from R5. So I'm really, really delighted. Really delighted.
Yeah. When I said where from, I meant where did who bought them?
Oh, there were 2 customers, so
Right.
they bought 2 of each.
Right. And
So
where were
that's
they
amazing.
from?
One of them I know is from the Brighton area.
Oh, right.
Which is
Okay.
fantastic.
Locally.
And
Yeah.
the other, and she's kind of a regular buyer, which is fantastic. And the other customer, I don't know who they are.
Right.
But yes,
You sometimes you don't know where your paintings go to.
not all the time.
Oh gosh, no, that's interesting. I've always thought that you kept track of these things, but
Well, I do. I do tend to ask. I know it's a lady called Judith, and that's about it. But I don't know where she's come
so
from.
Black Friday was a good day for you.
It was a really good Friday. Yeah, it
Oh,
was really
excellent.
good.
And did this go from the gallery or from
It's
your?
fine at the gallery.
All right,
Mm-hmm.
right.
So,
Now explain to people once again your gallery.
Okay, so basically it's based in Brighton, in the South Lanes. You know where the Mesmerist pub
Right.
is? It's like a pub bar type place,
Mhm.
and literally 2 doors along on the right hand side of it. As you know,
Right.
the Mesmerist is 2 doors along.
Yeah.
And it's
Is this the lanes or the North Lanes?
the lanes?
Lane
yeah,
lanes,
the proper-
yeah.
lanes, as they call it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
right,
always
the
call it
village.
South
The
Lanes.
old
'cause you've got
village.
the North Lanes. Gets confusing, doesn't it? So it's a gallery situated in the heart of Brighton, and
Yes.
it's got so many styles, so many like vibrancy bits of work. Some compositions are very surreal and quite mad, but I like the mix. There's lots of vibrancy, lots of life in this art.
Yes.
And it's such a nice to be part of that team. Bringing your work to life for people to love, for people to enjoy. That's what art's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. As well as doing it and creating it, I absolutely love it. It's like a therapy for me. It's something I've done all my life.
Yeah.
But when I actually get it on the wall and you see all these other artists and myself, just when you get a sale, it's lovely. You're like celebrating each other. You're just
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
to. That's what art's all about. It's
Part of the crowd.
Just be loved.
Yeah.
The next thing I'm doing towards Christmas. I'm doing these 3 lollipops together, and in the background, I'm going to do. It's a surprise actually. I'll let you guys all wait. I'll let you viewers wait.
Right. Okay.
Because it's a slightly
Here is a Christmas mystery. Christmas. Yeah. It's like I no longer can make up my mind whether I should leave milk for Father Christmas or a brandy.
A carrot.
A carrot.
Likes carrots. So my son tells me. That was last year, but Johnny
right.
said to me, he said, "Mummy, is Santa real?" Oh, what did you just ask me? I said, he goes, "Is it real, Mummy? Come on, tell me."
Right.
I went, "I think you know the answer to that." And I just left it all to his.
Well, now I'm expecting a tongue-in-cheek picture, which you showed it in the next programme, of Father Christmas eating a carrot.
You can do caricature if you like. I haven't done caricatures for a while, but hey.
Well,
let's
there you
roll
go,
with
a
that,
new
let's roll
challenge.
with it.
You get one every time you come on this programme. Did you find out about Bulldog Drummond?
I not really, no.
Oh,
Usually I'm very good at these things, but
you can't come up with Bulldog Drummond on that? So normally what he does is, these things fascinate me. You really got to paint one of these things, because what he does is he says, "Show me Bulldog Drummond." The bloody phone does the
It's
job
Google
for him.
you.
Yeah.
Yes, we didn't work like it back in the day, like, I don't know, 10 years plus ago. Google wasn't there.
No, absolutely not.
You had to wait. You had to go to the library, didn't you, to go
Yeah.
and find things out and do all your research.
Yeah.
Because every library in East Sussex, what can I do when I find
That's
anything?
right. Everybody's got a
Every
book that
library.
they forgot to return. Yes.
But I kind of like those days where I'd sit hours in the library doing lots of research. But
Yeah.
those,
Yeah.
no, you don't do that now. Hey Google, what's this? Or Wikipedia, or what's
Yeah,
your
that's
website
right.
comes up, you've got it.
The library was also a place that you could see people with fellow interests and so on. You were there searching the shelves and so on.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now there's another one. You see, there's a forgotten era. You should
It kind
start
of
to. I'm telling her what to paint. Oh God! Stop
Well,
it!
I'm
Stop it! Stop it!
I'm
Stop it!
halfway there with all the vintage things I do.
Yes, you are. It's wonderful. Yeah. Yeah.
Lots of books on the bookshelf.
But with your eye as an artist, you see things which I don't see, and then I suddenly think, yeah, they're not around anymore. And it evokes memories of the life that was that I haven't even realised has disappeared.
Reminisce, that's what my work is about, reminiscing. It's just like looking at something. But I love doing iconic, bold things as well, so I kind of incorporate that as well, that sort of
Yes.
boldness and
Yes. Now,
iconic.
how is my banana split?
It's still hanging on the shelf. It's still hanging there proudly in the gallery.
Right? And nobody's actually bought it.
Not yet. I had a few inquiries about it.
Have you? Oh,
Yeah,
that's great.
Leads,
Yeah,
as
that's
they
great.
call it, but
Yeah.
nothing's come out the bag as yet.
Right.
But
But I think we should remind people that your paintings actually go all over the world. People from all over the world buy them. It wasn't Patagonia, but there was some Panama. That's right.
You
Yeah.
went too far out.
Yeah, right continent.
Yeah, exactly. That begins with a P. So you kind of, do not too badly there.
I think that's terrific that your work is, in various parts of the world. Yeah.
Totally.
Actually, we must actually get you.
Still wait for that New York spot, but
Well, let me say, I was just working on the pitch for our New York program today. And that will go off in the next 10 days or so. So perhaps by the new year, I'll be able to tell you whether we're going there in March.
Oh, well.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, well, we'll watch this space.
Absolutely, yeah. And,
You have to give me a bit of notice to make sure I get the nice few days off.
oh, I will. Yes, but we can't go without you.
Oh, no, exactly.
And once again, remind people this isn't the end of the year program, but nonetheless we are edging towards that. So remind people also your fascination with things American, like the walk signs and so on.
Oh, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it. You know, I love iconic old-fashioned things like, you know, just trying to find little subjects and the white space around it and the image just pops out on the canvas. That's what I'm looking for. So, like, you know, you've got the lights that hang.
Yeah.
You've got the don't walk and you've got the man, haven't you? I know we have them over here as well.
Yeah, no, but
I really
they are a New York
so
iconic. Yeah,
aren't
that's
they?
right. Yeah.
Or you've also got the hot dog or the hamburger, the long tall hamburger. I think all the relish and all the sauces
Yeah,
coming
that's
down. I
right,
can see
yeah.
that. And
Yes.
all the candies they have. You know the bazooka triangle. Not triangle. What's it called? It's bazooka. I think a Bermuda triangle. Sorry, it's called bazooka. You know the bubble gum.
Oh,
It's got
right.
a colourful wrap around it.
Oh,
you
yes.
know the bubble gum I showed
Yes,
on our
absolutely.
latest
Can't remember
programme?
its name, but I know what you're talking
It
about.
was the bubbly one I showed you, wasn't the round
Yeah,
one, which is a
that's
UK
right.
kind of version.
Yes.
But in America, they have these bazookas where they have a little comic strip as you open the wrapper.
right.
It pops out. So something like a bazooka, or
Yeah.
and I tell you what we did the other day. My son and I, and one of my bestest friends, we went and took Felix to piano, watched him on the old piano, getting good there, which is fantastic. I'm so proud of him. But on the way home, he goes to me, because I've done so well on the piano today, do you think there's any chance we can pick up those donuts in the garage on the corner there? Because he gets his favourite donut. I thought, okay then, as you do. You think, I'm so proud, and my best friend kept going, yes, go on, do it, you've got to do it. I went, okay. So we walk into the garage, pick up the donuts, they're American, they haven't got the holes in them. And as he went over to the other side of the garage, he sees all this American candy. And there's a great big like plastic sort of, I don't know, container of them. It looks like a cup. So he goes, Mummy, please can I have this as well as a donut? So I couldn't resist. You know, so there's me with my sweets,
Yeah, of
my
course.
interest of sweets, and him wanting them as well. And my best friend going, oh, they look nice. So we just bought them. You know, and like, yes, and on the way home, we're eating all this American candy.
Oh, that's
I'm
great.
looking at it and thinking, okay, next suspects are going to be there. Take some American candy.
Now, there's
So-
one other thing that I would like you to paint. While we're in New York, you can take a look. And that is something which we don't really have over here, but is very typical in New York, and that's a Reuben sandwich. You know what a Reuben sandwich is?
I've heard of it. What is it again? Please remind me.
It is the Jewish beef, smoked beef, not smoked beef, but
Okay.
I forget what they call that, on rye bread. And it is very New Yorkish.
Has it got like gherkins in it?
Yes, you can have gherkins in it. Yeah, those
They
little
have that
gherkins.
pastrami
Yeah,
ham
yeah.
as well, don't they?
Pastrami is what I'm after. Pastrami on rye. That's a
I
Reuben
think
sandwich.
I have had it. Yeah, I had it when I was in New York.
Yeah.
So we could do
Did you?
those.
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
you've got to paint a Reuben.
There's
yeah.
a market
And
there.
even if you only take a photograph of it there, yeah.
Oh, that's exactly what I'll be doing. Because anything I say, well, I just finished my bout of art lessons, by the way. Now I was telling you about the art lessons.
Right.
I was teaching a lovely lady that I know, Lois, and she's become a very lovely friend. I know her 30 odd years ago, we reunited. Then she wanted the art lessons, which is just fantastic. So I finished it like 2 weeks ago, the last art, no, it was last week. And she said, I just love doing the art lessons with you. And it's so great. Anyway, I was deviating. What were we just talking about? My head's just gone. I was talking about...
We were talking about a Reuben sandwich.
That's it. It was the sandwich. That's right. And she goes, "Oh, I know I was into now." Basically, when she was at home, I said, "Don't paint from life all the time because the light source changes." And I always say this to people: it's best to take a photo. It's because when you're painting from a photo, the light source is always there.
Right,
Your colour's
yeah.
not going to change. And I think I've said this to you quite a few times. You know, when I was going on
Yeah.
the Downs, and I did those when you first did our interviews together, and I was doing the tree scenes. Well, you know, the camera was my best friend.
Yeah.
It always is. You know, the reference just stays where it is. It doesn't change. It doesn't. So when I was teaching, you know, doing my art classes, that's the thing I always just sort of say. Because I was doing a sunset sketch of her the other day, and And the thing just changed within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Sunsets are quick. You have to be so quick, and it's like by the time you get it onto paper, it just moves too much. And
Yeah,
it's just
but if
like,
you click, if you've
click
got
on
it
a
there,
button like this, and you've got a film of it and a freeze of it. It's fantastic. It works really well.
have we found Bulldog Drummond?
Oh, that's still supposed to be
Matt.
on.
Oh,
Sleep
he's
over
not with it
there.
today. He's but anyway, we've really come to the end of our little chat. So what we will do is we will keep the lady here in mind for her English Bulldog. We'll keep Mimi, is it?
Minnie.
Minnie.
That's Minnie Mouse.
Minnie in mind for the French Bulldog.
Do you know why they call her Minnie Mouse?
Why?
Because she's kind of like a grey point. So she's kind of like a dark grey colour.
All right.
And she's got these ears that just stand out. I think that's why they call her
Just like Minnie Mouse.
Yeah, exactly. But triangular ears, not round ears. Just
right.
a shape.
But along with the other secret painting,
Yes.
right, that
The
we
one
were
box
going to do
painting, yeah.
is we will also reveal Bulldog Drummond. And he is charged with finding out who Bulldog Drummond is. I suppose neither of you know who Dick Barton is.
Dick Burton. Is it?
Dick Barton.
Oh, Barton. I thought I heard it. Oh, I think it's someone else. But I think it's
You know who the Archers are?
No.
Everyone knows who the Archers are.
Oh, the Archies! Oh, do.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
I thought you said Archie.
Yeah,
or something.
well, just at about the
Archies.
time that the Archers started, there was a detective on BBC called Dick Barton, and he went somewhere down, and every kid of 7 or 8 stopped to listen to Dick Barton. You don't know who Dick Barton is. You don't know who Bulldog Drummond is. You'll tell me you don't know who 007 is next.
Well, I remember.
I have to
Robert
leave these
Custard.
people. They are breaking my heart. Until next week.
See you
Lovely to
soon.
see you, Sarah.
See you soon. Take care.
Now you know who Bulldog Drummond was.
Yes, I misheard you. I thought you were saying Bulldog Drummer. As in drummer. I was like,
Yes.
But
Yes,
that's why I couldn't find it. But you were saying Drummond.
Drummond, yes.
Right.
Bulldog Drummond. Anyway, you found him and you put up the cover of some of the. Well, I think that was for a movie they made of Bulldog Drummond, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember his henchman, because everybody had a henchman in those days. Dick Barton had Snowy and Jock as his henchmen. I'd forgotten who Bulldog Drummond's was. But dear old Bulldog got himself into some tight spots. And it seems to me that the author of Bulldog Drummond stories was a guy called Sapper. And he died. And they wanted to keep the series alive. And somebody else took over. Once again, can't remember the name, but it was so-and-so after Sapper. And they kept the name of the original author on everything for as long as Bulldog Drummond lived. And I don't know when he died. I mean, I don't know when he... what was the last...
What was his name?
Sapper.
First name?
I don't know. He was only ever known as Sapper.
The author of Bulldog Drummer.
Right. Let's see. We can just find it just as a matter of interest. Anyway, in the meantime, what I would like to do is to just have a rant, because as the regular viewers of this program will know, is I really have a thing against computers, and I have a thing against the financial community, whom I think is out of control. Now, 2 incidents that happened yesterday. One, Lloyd's, there is a scam going around at the moment where it says that PayPal is going to take 500 quid out of your account to pay for some piece of software. And what you have to do is to tap this if you agree to it, and tap that if you don't agree to it. Now, I knew it was because there are several coming all at once, but I didn't want any accident through PayPal to arise. So I phoned my bank, Lloyd's, the wonderful Lloyd's, for whom I was a part owner at one time, when they borrowed heavily from the public purse to keep them alive, and who now arrogantly treat us like a piece of whatever. And and a very youngish voice. And I said, look, I just want to make sure that money doesn't come out of my account. So can you block this? No, I can't. I can't block anything until the money comes out of your account. Well, can you put me through to fraud? No, because fraud wouldn't be able to deal with it until the fraud has been perpetrated. So in other words, I have to lose 500 quid out of my account before the bank will move. Well, that sounds very efficient. And all their promises about looking after your money and how careful they are it's so much flim-flam. It's so much flim-flam. Watch it. If you bank with Lloyds, make sure every step of the way you check them, because they are not only untrustworthy, but they're inefficient. And with things like that, that's stupid. Now, secondly, the other company that I have an issue with is American Express. We've talked on this program about globalization and the fact that now globalization is falling out of favor with corporate entities. Amex in 2015 globalized totally. The new chief executive believes in globalization, so everything comes out of the United States now, including the operation here. And they behave like the United States. They bully, they harass, they call at 9 o'clock at night. This is the way that they do it in America. It is not appropriate here, not appropriate in the least here. And American Express should hang its head in shame, but it won't, because it's some bloke sitting in a top of a skyscraper in New York or wherever, and he is in charge. He's in charge of what happens. He's in charge of what happens to my account, your account, and so on. Now, Amex has always had a problem here because of its high rates. So quite often you find that organizations that will take credit cards won't take American Express. And that's an internal thing. But up until this bloke took over and they globalized, American Express was not a bad company. You could deal with it. It was sympathetic. It was very appreciative of the fact that you'd been with them for a long time. Now, for the matter of 100 quid, threaten to take you to court. For a matter of 100 quid, they threaten you at 9 o'clock at night. And do they take any account of whether people are vulnerable or elderly and so on? No, they do not. And all this headline stuff about looking after the vulnerable and looking after the elderly is so much BS as far as American Express is concerned. Now there'll be a lot of people saying, but they paid some money into the Amex Stadium. Well, yes, they did. And very nice it is too. And I'm glad for the footballers. But they do not deserve the name on what is so-called a community stadium. And the sooner we can get the Amex Stadium sponsored by somebody else and looked after properly, instead of by this vile company that is American to the core and is trying to impose its American characteristics onto British society, the better. It is venal. And when you see American Express, that'll do nicely. Say, no, that will not do at all. I will not use American Express. That's the way to get back at them. Now, I'm not saying that we should put American Express out of business. Far from it. It gives a lot of people jobs. But it's got to start to look at the way it behaves and the way it operates. If it's not civilized, it has no place in a civilized community. So get with it, Mr. Whatever your name is, in New York or Chicago or wherever the headquarters are. Do not impose your American standards on British society. It is not acceptable and we won't take it. So American Express, get your act together.
Most stores don't accept American Express because they charge too high rates on card machines.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Also, going back to what we were talking about earlier, the author of the Bulldog Drummer,
Bulldog Drummer.
His real name was H.C. McNeil.
Right.
He was born in 1888
Wow.
and died in
1937.
Yeah.
Right.
He died of throat cancer, and he also published his stories in the Daily Mail.
Oh, really? And the pseudonym was Sapper. Is that correct? Yes. Does it say there who took over from him in 1937?
No.
Right.
But also, hang on. Why pseudonym is spelled first letter starts with a P. It's got silent. Maybe it's just a misspelling.
Oh, pseudonym. The word pseudonym starts with a P. Yes, no, it does. You're quite right. But Sapper, it starts with an S.
No, I'm saying the word pseudonym.
Pseudonym, yeah, starts with a P.
That's
Yeah,
such
yeah,
a stupid way of
It's okay.
spelling
It's not a misprint. It does start with a P.
it. It's
Yeah.
such a stupid way.
Pseudo. Right. Okay. Now, a little face appeared at the window just a moment ago from the high street, and who was it? Liza Page, who came by, gave us one of her magnificent smiles, and I was in full flow. I couldn't really smile back, but we are going to play something now, and what we'll do is we will. What's that newspaper headline doing? That's the. And in between time, we will swap seats, and she will join Max 4. Age and Youth, in which you will hear all sorts of alternative views, and very interesting they are. So I'll say toodle pip, Max, over to you, and while I slip quietly into the sunset or the sunrise or whatever, is Liza will come and sit next to you. What a delight.
What we're going to do is we're going to play part 1, episode 5 of Bloody History of Tyne. We're playing part 1 and 2 every day of the Bloody History of Tyne. So we're doing part 1 of episode 5.
Right, and we
today.
did part 2 of part 4
yesterday.
Did we? Yes, right. Okay. You're in charge.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Bloody Lewis. Hi. Bloodletting wasn't confined to fierce battles and the tilting gentry. There were lots of naughty people around in Lewis over the centuries. And the good citizens of the town made sure they paid for their crimes. The Saxons kicked up a bit of a fuss after the Normans took over. And the new masters of the town got a bit heavy with them. The Saxons had used hanging as their way of dealing with major crime. The Normans also thought that was a decent way to get rid of naughty folk, and they kept the gallows as a punishment.
Although the records of people being hanged in Lewis aren't too plentiful, the number of people going to the gallows after 1066 increased considerably.
Until the mid-1600s, felons were locked up in the castle, then taken down the road a bit to this place, Gallows Bank. There is evidence that this was where the gallows stood from Saxon times to the mid-19th century. When hangings were no longer done in public, hangings didn't stop. They just weren't done in public. They were moved to Lewis Prison.
But they were public until 1868, and huge crowds would turn up just to watch somebody being hanged.
In fact, the modern term Gala Day comes from such occasions, previously known as Gallows Day.
Chasing around Lewis can be a tiring affair, so I sometimes take a breather and come to this little corner of a park near the centre of Lewis. It's called the Knot Garden. I had no idea what a knot garden was until I spoke to a gardening expert. It's a garden of symmetrical design, as you can see. These breathers give me a chance to think about some of the stories we reported on, thought about, perhaps even enjoyed. I've just come from Lewis Prison. I've reported many times on the Russian prisoners held in the old naval prison. It's hard to forget them because there's a monument erected to them in the churchyard of one of our churches, St. John sub Castro. These prisoners seem to have overshadowed the 300 Finnish prisoners who were held in the new Lewis prison. They were from the same Crimea War in 1853. They fared better than their Russian counterparts in the old naval prison because they were repatriated quite quickly, and history seems to have forgotten them. One of the Russian prisoners went over the wall and caused a nationwide manhunt. When he was eventually found, he was in a pub just next door to the prison having a talk. Forgotten just how nice it was to have that glass before his bedtime, so he went and found one.
Norman justice was pretty fierce and pretty swift. But they did introduce an early version of the 12-man jury system. So the baddies of yesteryear were given some sort of chance. While hanging was the flavour of the day, there was also a way of avoiding being strung up if you chose trial by ordeal. I must say, I think that trial by ordeal was thought up by a mischievous bookmaker. Certainly the odds were heavily stacked against the victim. There was trial by fire, trial by water, and trial by combat. By fire, the accused had to pick up a red-hot poker or bar. If the wound healed, then the verdict was innocent of all charges. But if infection set in, then guilt was proved, and he returned to the noose. By water, the accused was bound hand and foot, thrown into the pond and told to swim.
No breaststroke, just bubbles. Innocent. Sorry about that.
The ducking stool was a more genteel version for ladies, but the results were much the same. Float, guilty, off to the gallows. And if you were well bred, you had the best odds of the lot. Noblemen would fight often to the death in combat with their accuser. The winner of the battle would be considered to be the one that was right. It was 1215 when trial by ordeal was replaced by trial by jury. 12 good men and true. The castle as a prison wasn't a huge success. A number of prisoners went in through the front door and then decamped via the back to the river in the hope of catching a boat out of town. When the economy of Lewes, usually robust and lucrative, became depressed in the 14th century, there was an epidemic of less serious crime. People became desperate during these hard times, and in 1396 the parson of St. John's was charged with robbery from Hamsey Church, but was later granted a king's pardon. The stocks were deemed to be a lesser punishment. On one occasion in Lewes, in the 13th century, the bishop ordered a knight to be punished by carrying the stocks through the town streets and into a church, because the knight had dared to throw a member of the clergy into his dungeon. The Lewes stocks stood next to the gallows.
I don't think this was by accident. The Normans figured that the sight of ghoulish punishment would act as a deterrent.
Sitting in the stocks would have given lesser villains an opportunity to view dead men dangling from the rope, bodies rotting in the gibbet, or people hobbling around, limbs severed, mutilated as a punishment.
It's a bit uncomfortable sitting here in the stocks. I wouldn't want to spend a whole night here. It would make a man a bit stiff on a chill evening. But my main punishment was being kept out of the pub all night with nothing to drink but water.
But the main punishment was ridicule, of course. In those days, a fate worse than death. The stocks outlasted the gallows as a public spectacle. They didn't disappear until 1872. Some historians claim that this punishment has never been removed from the law books, and indeed there are still some American states where being consigned to the stocks remains on the statutes. So tourists beware. Having cabbages thrown in your face, your feet tickled, and spending a cold night with legs locked up is hardly the holiday of a lifetime.
At last, I'm out of the stocks. Time for a drink. Ordeal by beer. Bliss.
Hello.
All right, and welcome back. Hello.
Ooh, slippery
okay?
out there, wasn't it?
It was, yes. Got the bus in this morning. Had a little bit of an accident.
Tell me about your accident.
Well, no, it wasn't my accident. It was the bus. The road. I can't remember the road name, but one of the really steep ones in Landport. As the bus was going up it was completely ice, all of it,
Wow.
and the bus started sliding back. He put the brakes on, pulled the handbrake, slowly started sliding back and hit a van. It was only a minor thing, just a cracked bumper. So nothing major. But the guy moved the van and we managed to turn the bus around. But yeah, that's the third bus crash I've been in this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they do say things go in threes, don't they? So you're all finished with that now.
Well, hopefully. Well, there's
Onwards
not
and
much of the year left.
Onwards and upwards.
There's not much of the year left anyway. But yeah, I was on a metro bus and it crashed into a tree a couple months ago. Woman went to hospital because of that.
I remember you telling me about that. That
Yeah.
was very nasty, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I was also very smug. Do you remember why I was like that? Serves you right. Was because she barged in front of me on the bus and took the seat I always sit in. I always sit on the top deck at the very front on the left because I get on the first stop in Brighton. I get on the first stop. She cut in front of the line. She took that seat. I, just went towards the back of the bus and went, oh, okay, then she's taking my seat, whatever. And then it was that seat where the bus crashed into the tree and the glass went out of her face.
So she probably saved your life.
No, she didn't save my life. She saved me from getting a bunch of glass in my face.
Well, there you are. It could have been much, much worse.
But when it happened,
she might have been a guardian angel. You never know.
No, I think she was just a bit of a, arsehole.
Don't swear. It doesn't suit you.
No, well, I
Leave
very
that to
rarely
me.
swear. No, you swear far more than I do. God.
I do. It's terrible.
No, I try to swear as little as often because I don't like doing it.
No, it's not gentlemanly and it's not ladylike either. We have to mend our manners. Okay, I see that Peter Hitchin has decided to take a chance. Britain slowly turning into a virgin of the mad old version of the mad old Germany with equality and diversity, the new Marxism. Even worse, says Peter Hitchens, it's happening under the Tories. Really, he's a bit bloody late, isn't he?
Yeah.
And when have you ever heard him mention Bill Gates or Schwab
I
or
certainly never.
any of those monkeys or the other
I've
guys?
never heard him mention.
Fauci never mentioned any of those guys because he's been too terrified of losing his job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Better late than never, I suppose. But I mean, Britain is turning into. It's already here. My God, he calls himself a journalist. I used to be such a fan of his, such a fan.
I know.
But people run for cover with their little lives.
No, I've never heard him mention anything about the World Economic Forum ever.
No, nothing. The talk radio is forbidden to mention that. They'd all lose their jobs if they did because it's owned by Murdoch.
Yeah, of course. Majid Nawaz got fired for mentioning Klaus Schwab on LBC. He got fired for talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to do any good, we've got to take those chances. I mean, magnificent people have knocked back on these injections, even though they've lost their jobs and gone hungry for it.
My mum is a nurse, and at her company that she works at, a bunch of people were fired for not being vaccinated.
Yes.
Multiple nurses.
Many people, and no, they've said, no, I will not have that poison put into my body. And Hitchin never, ever mentioned those marches against these injections and against the lockups. It was always, oh, yes, a bunch of non-vaxxers. Oh, Peter, how could you? How could you? Coming up to the end of your career, I mean, what a magnificent man you were before. How could you do
Have you
that?
ever met
Hitchin? No.
You've written to him though.
Several times and never got an answer. No, and he's not a gentleman either. Anyway, let him get on with it. You're too late, mate. And a lot of people have got there before you.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I can't believe it's taken him. He's a very, very, very intelligent guy.
He's one of the best brains in this country.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason I don't know why it's taken him so long to finally say something like this.
Yeah.
And
And
it's pretty
he's terribly jealous of David Icke.
Is he?
Terribly jealous. Oh, yeah. Well, all these guys are, aren't they? Oh, you remember the little boy that had the operation? They snatched him away from his mother in New Zealand.
Yes.
Yes. And they gave him this operation, and he's doing fine. But word has it, he had the non-vaccine blood.
But you heard that from
I heard this.
Jamie?
I've heard
Jamie
this
Icke?
from Jamie Icke on the Icke alternative, and it makes sense. If that is the case, it makes sense, because if they'd given him the other stuff and he had died, whoa, what a powder keg that would have done. So let's hope and pray they did give him the non-vax blood. Incidentally, there is a magnificent man who has set up.
Where is this? In Sheffield? Was it?
I don't know where it is, but I've got it here. His name is George Della Pietra, Pietra.
I'm going to try find out where it is.
And his organization is called Safe Blood UK.
How do you say his surname? L-I... how do you spell his surname, sorry?
Safe Blood, SAFEBLOOD. UK. What a marvelous, marvelous man. I saw him on the Jason Leosatos blog. And he did a marvelous job of explaining things, and really terrific. Fantastic man. You know, whoa, at least somebody's doing something, aren't they?
Trying to find whereabouts in the UK it is, but I'm not sure where the blood drive is. I can't find it.
They pass these jabs for 6-month-old babies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Why does a 6-month-old baby need to be vaccinated against?
Why does
COVID?
any human being need that poison stuff?
If you,
I mean, there is so much now. They're raising it in Parliament. I don't know if they're going to do anything or not to say that this is unsafe and it has to be investigated. I mean, this has been going on for so long and nobody's done anything about it at all.
well,
I mean, this is going to go down as the mass murder of any lifetime.
we'll see what happens, because I certainly don't trust them, the vaccines, the COVID vaccines, that is specifically. But I don't know what the death toll will be, but I doubt it will be in the millions.
Are you kidding? Are you
Not with
kidding?
the COVID ones, no.
Or the
I
COVID,
don't
yeah.
know.
Oh, absolutely, darling, absolutely. Because they don't know how long this is going to take. I mean, it might not show up for 6 or 10 years.
Yeah, well, that's why it takes so long. It takes about 10 to 20 years to make a single vaccine to find out the long-term side effects. This vaccine took 8 months to make with no testing whatsoever.
And people
That's
are
why I
dropping
didn't
like
get it.
flies.
Yeah, I know.
No, I did my
Doctors and-
research, and no, sorry.
That's why a
Don't
lot
want
of
it, won't have it. Don't want it, won't have it. No, that's it.
that's
But
why.
people are gullible. They trust these governments. They say, now this is the law. You've got to have it. Otherwise, you will lose your job and then you won't be able to feed yourself or your children. And eventually it will be mandatory where they will break your door down and forcibly stick these needles into you. Of course it will. Because this is what happened in Nazi Germany. And I've been saying this even before the pandemic started. I mean, and any minute now, if we allow it, we will be totally under Chinese rule.
I agree
Totally.
with that part.
And sorry, life will not be worth living. Because if you think it's bad now, it's going to get 100 times worse. And we have to stop this. And the only way we are going to stop this is to say, no, we're not having it. What are you talking about, you maniacs? And which these people are. They are psychotic. If someone's psychotic, then they're dangerous. So they have to be put away. I mean, if someone walked in here with a hatchet or something and attempted murder, you'd say, come on, get rid of him or her. But now in Canada, please let me read this. Please, I beg of you. Canada has currently passed a bill to say, we will take your guns, censor the internet, forcibly vaccinate, censor anyone for anything, seize property, fine and jail dissent, label unvaxxed as mentally insane and lock them up. Also, there is the MAID, MAID. If you don't like any of that, Canadian government can offer you medical assistance in dying and finish you off. I mean,
What did you hear about the story with the veteran, the Canadian veteran? She was shot in war, or I can't remember what it was, but she's lost the movement of her legs, and she's a veteran, and she had to have a stair lift put in her house, and the Canadian government said, well, look, it's probably going to take another year or two to get the stair lift put into your house, but we can offer you assisted suicide.
it's so horrific. One has to laugh. You know, if we didn't laugh, I mean, something awful would happen. But to even allow this sort of thing to go on, I mean, are people totally mad?
Yes.
Well, now I know, don't I? You said it.
Well, it's pretty obvious that people are just completely brainwashed.
Yeah.
It was in yesterday's Daily Mail, but finally, mainstream media picked up on it. The Daily Mail had an article about how TikTok is brainwashing children. God, only if someone had said that before. Only if someone already knew.
Yeah. All Chinese owned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know.
And not to mention again about taking out these smart meters.
Well, a lot of them are put in your house and they're not. You can't just take them out.
No, they won't let you.
No, like
No.
you can't. They put it in your house. They build it into new houses, so you physically
so that
can't
you can't get it out.
No, it would be like saying, "Oh, just take out the boiler in your house." Well, you
Yeah.
can't just do that.
No.
So all new houses being built in with smart meters, and you
Absolutely, and
you
all
can't disable them.
restrictions. So if you own your own home, then they're going to make it impossible for you to run it from gas, electricity, and things like that. And also, you will have to have, it will be mandatory, a different boiler put in. And these smart meters, everything's smart because they want these smart cities to send us to. Why are we standing for this? Why? I mean, how stupid are people? All they have to say is no, but it's got to be done en masse.
It's not as easy as saying no, and unfortunately,
Why aren't they out marching?
Again,
Why? Why
people
are they not
again,
out
people are
marching?
brainwashed. It's not going to take civil disobedience.
If it was world civil disobedience, they would listen.
Yeah, there's no way of convincing the whole world of one thing.
Well,
It's
I
impossible.
think the eyes are waking up, aren't they? And
Oh
they
no, I
had
agree.
better.
There's a lot
They
more
had
people,
better.
but it's
And
it's
you
not
know,
possible.
David Icke, they ban him from all these countries because they're petrified of him because he's telling the truth, and he's been telling the truth for well over 30 years.
Yeah,
And
why would
quite
he need to be
frankly,
banned if he wasn't right?
Exactly. And, you know, quite frankly, he is all we have got.
Yeah, he wouldn't need to be banned if what he says wasn't right.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, jabs for 6 months old, and people, here's my baby, go and stick some poison in it. Sick. Oh, Australia now has Swabs WEF is now pushing to implant tracking microchips in humans as part of the Great Reset agenda. Well, come on, we knew that was coming, didn't we? We knew that. Knew it. But we are not beaten yet. Oh, because Mr. Hitchin has said it's like East Germany. How
Well,
many?
these things are
Listen,
so-
how long have you been fucking asleep?
Well, these things are slowly making its way into the mainstream, which is a good thing. You know, a couple of years
But
ago,
you see-
you would never see anything like what Peter Hitchkins just said there in the Daily Mail or any sort of newspaper. You would never see it. Slowly, you know, things are
Yeah, but now it's at a stage, Max, where it's going to be very, very difficult to close it down because it's all in place. They've been planning it for so many years. You know, it's all set up. So to tear it all down is going to be very, very difficult. But we have to try. We have to try, because once this is set in, it'll take probably 200 or 300 years to come out of it, and we won't be human. We will not be human beings.
What do you mean by that?
Well, because once they get into the cells of the brain, you're totally
Oh,
in
right.
control.
Okay, yeah. With things like Neuralink and putting chips in your brain.
Yes.
I mean, again,
Well, that was
5
the-
years ago, that was a crazy, weirdo conspiracy theory. Oh, you've been watching too much David Icke. But now it's
Oh,
like,
yes, and
well,
that's what I've been
do you
saying.
want to, in a couple of years, you know, they're doing human trials with the brain chips in 6 months' time.
Yes.
So, you know, do you want to get one?
Yeah.
But 5 years ago, complete conspiracy will never happen. You're being ridiculous.
And it was always who I lectured was, oh, yes, but not in our lifetime. I said, no, it was already happening now. No.
I mean, the
would
Daily
never do
Mail
that.
had a story a couple of weeks ago about the guy who has a credit card chip in his hand.
Yes,
And can pay contactless by just doing that.
Yeah,
on
well,
a
in
card
Sweden,
machine.
that's quite commonplace now. Quite commonplace. Oh, look, I can open doors like that.
Well, most people do it with their watch. I know a lot of people who pay with their watch.
Mm.
I've
Yes.
never met anyone who's got a chip in them yet.
No, it is quite common in Sweden, you will find. And also, I think it was 5 years ago, women were taking their children down to be microchipped and microchipping themselves and paying for it. In Brighton, that
In
was
Brighton?
happening. Yes,
Really?
yes. About 5 years ago, they were doing that. It's in the newspaper.
I've never heard of that. I have to have a look into that because I've
Yes.
not heard that before.
You do your research and have a look on that.
Yeah, well.
It's been going on a long time, Max.
Hmm.
Believe me,
I mean, I know
long
it's been
time.
going on a long time, but
Long
that
time.
surprised me that it's so local.
Yeah.
Is what I'm surprised by.
Oh, yeah. Mm. But I thought that list of Canada was really quite informative, quite terrifying. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a. So, sorry, I'm just trying to bring it up now. It's being slow. Okay, here we go. British nurses begin first ever strike as pay disputes deepen.
Yeah.
I didn't know this was their first ever time striking.
Well, I wish they
I
would.
thought it was illegal for doctors and nurses to strike.
They're going out striking for this pitiful bit of pay rise, which is not going to do them the slightest bit of good because they're taking away the money.
Do you remember in 1983 in Canada, a police department in a local town, a small town, went on strike? Do you remember this?
No, I don't.
1983, a small town Canadian police department went on strike,
Yes.
and within the first 30 minutes of them going on strike, the first bank was robbed. Okay, and this is in lovely, polite Canada at
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Nice,
it was
civilized
complete
country.
anarchy. Yeah, it was complete anarchy. People robbing from stores. There was no one to stop them. There were assaults going on, and not just beatings, sexual
Yes.
assaults as well. And this happened in 1983 in Canada.
Uh-huh.
And then they made it illegal for police to strike. And then, like in all the Western countries, police can't strike. And I assume that was the same for doctors and nurses because that's what I've been told all my life. Doctors and nurses will never go on strike because it's illegal for them to.
Mhm.
So I don't know what's going on with that.
No, neither do I. No.
I-
But it seems nowadays, Max, anything goes. It's a lawless society now.
Yeah, we're verging
Because-
on the edge of it. We really are.
Because these governments break the law continually and they do anything they want.
Oh, the
pass
government
any
breaking
bill.
law, that's different. That's not
Mhm.
a lawless society. I was thinking of lawless within the society. Obviously, it's lawless within the government because the government are immune from anything.
But you see, yes, I agree with you totally. And this provokes anarchy like we have never seen. But that's exactly what they want because then people will say, help us. And that's
We
when
need
they,
the government.
and
needs
yes,
to
and
think,
that's
yeah.
when they will say, what you need is the world army.
Mhm.
You see? All calculated.
The government is here to help.
So they'll say, look, all governments are corrupt, they're lousy. So what you must have is a one world government where you speak to a piece of machinery and that will decide whether you have a problem or not.
Well, yeah, the doctors are already doing test trials for robot calls
Mhm.
on the NHS, which is just ridiculous in my opinion.
Oh.
It's utterly ridiculous. But it's going on, so
And then they'll do operations over Skype and
that will never happen. But
oh, never say never.
no, it'll never happen.
I think they're already doing it, though.
Well,
Yeah.
it's
We'll
not.
check up and
possible.
find out.
Well, that's not happening. I can say for 100% sure. Sorry. Sorry about this. Sorry, it's
Want
the
some water?
cold. No, it's the
You want some
cold.
water?
It's the weather. Yeah, I've been feeling down because of it.
Oh dear.
Then
It'll
that
change.
incident-
Look,
Oh,
the sun is coming out already. Look,
Well, it's
it's
still
going to
minus
melt the
3.
snow. It's going to melt the snow.
Oh, it should. The sun was out yesterday, but still You were saying to me this morning that is it Sweden or Switzerland, somewhere like that, has heated pipes under the roads?
No, the taxi driver told me that today. Yes, Finland.
Finland, right?
Yes.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know that, but that does make sense. Obviously, they're used to that
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Mhm.
You know, we have like a day of snow and the whole country shuts down.
Yeah,
Can't get the bus, can't do anything.
no.
Just complete total halt of everything.
Well, I'm in Canada. I mean, there used to snow, and I mean, by the time 6 o'clock in the morning, it's all cleared away because they have the right equipment to do it.
But also, they're used to it
Yes.
as well. Canada, we have a month to 2 months of this weather that we're having now. But obviously, Canada is like a good 4 or 5 months, and same with Finland.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen the Canadian trains?
No,
They're really cool. They have giant snow plows in front of them.
really.
Yeah,
I'm
so-
sure they're quite luxurious.
Probably, yeah. But they have like these giant snow plows in the front of them. I'm like, why can't we do that?
Well,
Yeah.
because we're Britain. You see, Britain
Yeah.
does things differently, but I still like Britain.
Yeah.
It's my country.
Well, it's nice when it's this weather because everyone gets the day off work.
It's my country, and I have to spread the news that I have to see that we aren't destroyed.
Yeah.
And only the people can see to that it's not destroyed. Only us, only the people.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to mention this today. This is our second to last show.
Yes, it is.
Next week
yes.
is our very last show here on Mirador in the White Hart. I'm leaving, although I've mentioned it before, but I'm leaving next week. And next week on Thursday will be mine and yours last show.
Well, you're going off to do good things.
Yes,
Yes.
hopefully.
I mean, sell loss and they're gain wherever you're going.
Yeah. But, yeah.
But we've been doing some good work, you and I, and we'll continue to
Oh,
do
yeah,
so.
we're
We'll
gonna-
show them on Mirador too. We'll show our work on Mirador.
Yeah.
Of course we will. So you won't be totally without us. You'll be delighted to know.
Mm.
No, we started something very, very good here, and we're going to continue with it.
Yeah, we've been doing this for about 16 weeks now. It's our
Gosh,
16th show.
Seems like yesterday we started.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like 16 weeks ago, that's for
No.
sure.
Flies by, doesn't it? But maybe some people out there have related to what we've been talking about. Hopefully, we've got some information out that people will act on.
Mm.
Well, at least we've tried.
Well, we've got to keep trying,
And
that's
we
for
will
sure.
continue to. Until we're not allowed to.
Yeah. There's a story here I'm trying to find, but I've seem to have lost it. Okay, well, this is interesting. From the BBC, largest nursing strike in NHS history. But the other article from the BBC said this is the first strike ever. So I don't know what that's about. But they got two conflicting stories from the BBC on the same topic.
Well, I never watched the BBC. I will not pollute my mind with the propaganda that they put out. I'm sorry,
Yeah, but
I
you're
can't
immune
do
to it,
that.
so it doesn't matter. I don't understand. Yeah, you say this. You've said this a couple times now, and I don't get it. If you know it's propaganda, what does it matter? Because you
Well,
know
well,
you're
what-
not gonna.
Well, why waste my time? A portion of my
It's not
life
a waste of
watching
time,
it.
in my opinion.
What,
I-
to
I-
watch propaganda?
Yeah, essentially. I don't think it's a waste of time. I read The Guardian as well. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it's interesting to see what the mainstream left are saying.
Hmm.
I find it interesting to hear opposite opinions, knowing that most of the time is the BBC and the Guardian. Most of the time they are wrong.
Mhm.
So no, it doesn't bother me because I know it's. I know.
No, I'm frightened in
Of
case
what?
they turn me.
Do you really think that'll happen?
Oh yes.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
I don't. I don't
Yes,
think it'll
yes.
happen to either me or you.
Well, I never say never. Never ever say never, Max. We are sensitive human beings still. We're not machines, and we can very easily be turned into machines unless we're very clever and very cunning.
Hmm.
Because these people are very clever and very cunning, and we have to be up there on a par with them.
Well, that's what we're doing here.
Well, we're doing our best, and I'm so sorry you're leaving, but you have to go on to do other things. Of
Yes.
course you do.
Yeah, I can't stay here forever.
No, but you've been an absolute joy here. Everyone loves you, and you've done a lot of good with your opinions and your knowledge. And you're a lovely young man. But you know, we can't be selfish enough to keep you forever here. You've got to go and talk to other people,
Yeah.
and I know you will.
Try well.
I shall follow your career with great interest.
Thank you.
I want a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we go to a break and you order yourself a coffee?
Yeah, do you want one?
Oh,
You
not
don't
me.
drink
Not
coffee,
me. No.
do you? No,
No.
no.
I'm just trying to find some. There we go. Just a short minute clip. Lewis in the Clouds. Just for a breather. I've not shown this one before, I don't think. Okay, and we're back.
Hello, hello.
So there were a few other stories in the NHS, about the NHS in the Daily Mail, but I think this one is interesting about the NHS. Do you want to read it out loud?
Watershed moment in NHS cancer crisis as deaths keep rising. Well, they would do, wouldn't they? Cancer care. Can't read, haven't got my glasses.
Oh, you don't have your
It's so
glasses on.
small. Let's have a look at something else. Big letters. Oh.
Well, we have a story here. I can actually show it. Screen share. We covered it this morning, but every headline, every front page has a story about migrants coming over. Every single one. because a bunch of migrants came across the channel, paid $5,000, and the boat sank.
Oh dear. Were they
So
all
the
drowned?
Sun, 4 of them did. But
Oh, I don't
the
like to
Sun,
hear that.
the Sun here says £5,000 ticket to death. That's a
Oh,
harsh
dear.
headline. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe that's the right one.
But with all these fellows that are coming over here, did you say they're going to let them open up bank accounts?
Oh yes, I forgot we had that to talk about. So the supposed plan from Rishi Sunak, just like all of his other supposed plans, this one is he's not going to be he's not going to be giving bank accounts to illegal immigrants. He's banning illegal immigrants having bank accounts. Which, why did they have it in the first place if they're illegal, and second of all, not supposed to be here, and
And
the
also,
government's
if-
always saying, "Oh, we're gonna get rid of them."
Yeah,
one day.
if they're going to get rid of them, why should they open up a bank account? Waste of time, isn't it? Yeah. And, well, there won't be any bank accounts soon, will there? Because they were allowing things to happen. Won't be anything.
There'll always be bank accounts in your lifetime, but cash, I think,
No, in my lifetime, they will do away with money,
I think
So
they'll do
they-
away with cash,
with cash.
and then eventually they'll get round to the actual bank accounts, and it'll be a points-based system like the social credit system in China.
Oh.
Eventually.
Well, if there is no money, and they say there's not going to be, it's just going to be a point system, then that is total Chinese. And then if you do something wrong, if you jaywalk or say something that you shouldn't say, or say anything about the government, they will take away your points so you can't go into a shop and buy food. In fact, you can't go anywhere or do anything. And then if you're particularly naughty, they'll send you to one of their smart cities, which they are building very, very quickly, for rehabilitation. And then you will come out saying 2 and 2 make 5. That's what happens.
Yeah.
This is what happened all over China. And that is the blueprint for what they are bringing in here. This is what our leaders want, because they are all a member of the WEF.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but I have an interesting story that ties into this very, very well from the Sun. You can now buy a brand new electric car with a digital screen and glass roof for less than £5,000. There are a hell of a lot of Chinese-made cars coming over to this country. Not just Chinese-made, but Chinese brands. I'm noticing a lot of vans now.
I have, and they don't have any windows, do they?
No, well, no,
These
not the
vans.
work
There's
vans.
so many of them. I find them most sinister.
Well, yeah, we don't have pickup trucks in this country, so we only have vans. So,
We
That's
used
what-
to have pickup trucks.
really?
Well, William had one. Got stolen.
Was stolen?
Mm.
What?
It's a pickup truck, yeah.
Well, we do have pickup trucks, but we don't have many of them. Most of them are work vans, like that one outside. But, they're everywhere.
Yes.
You're right. But a lot of vans are now Chinese-made.
And you see, it is our fault because we just keep buying Chinese goods.
The problem is,
So it means we're not
We're-
making any of our own.
the problem is we're not making anything of our own, so we have to go to China.
Yes. Well, why don't we start
We don't
making
have
our own and then we're
manufacturing.
independent?
The way it used to be.
Yes.
But the thing is,
We had
we're
some of the
speaking-
finest craftsmen in the world in this country.
And speaking of the van specifically, if you're a workman that works for, say, a roofing company, you're trying to save as much money as possible, especially with what's going on right now. And they go, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to buy one of the Chinese brands because I can't afford anything else. So they they make it so cheap. It's hard not to buy it.
Yes, because they want electronic cars, and they will have electronic buses, so you can only go where they say you can go, and you're not allowed to have any other kind of car, any other kind of transport. It's all to do with control. I mean, look what they're going to do to Oxford.
Mm.
Did
And the
Hitchin
buses-
mention that?
The buses
Did
will
Hitchin mention that? No, did he? No, never mentioned that. That's where he lives.
and the buses will only take you on the approved route.
Exactly. Yes. Well, 15 minutes or something, isn't it? That they're going to allow in Oxford in everything in a radius of 15 minutes, and you're allowed
right, yes,
100 hours or something in a month or a week out of there, and you have to report where you're going and what you're doing, and register your car to get out of the place.
Well, they have in these smart cities. I remember learning about these smart cities years ago in geography lessons, because we talk about innovations and climate change in geography a lot of the time, and obviously urban areas and stuff like that. But we were taught that these smart cities were coming around 2030 in school, and at the time I didn't really catch on to what they were saying, really. It was only till later on, after I'd left school, and went, "Oh God damn it! I just realised what they meant."
Yes.
You know, in all the textbooks, all these smart cities will be coming in, and you won't own a car. It'll be a shared car, a communal car.
Yeah.
It'll be all very cheap. You'll have, you'll have solar panels, so it'll be very cheap electricity, and wind turbines nearby. You have all your needs met, shops built in.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Total and
We were
utter control.
these were in the textbooks in school.
Yes.
And I remember looking at these going, wow, that sounds interesting, but not really realizing at the time what it meant. It was only until later on after I left and gone,
And how
I wish I
quickly
had.
it would materialize
Mm, yeah.
with such speed. With such speed. But if people stand for it, then I'm afraid that's what will happen. We will be totally under the Chinese regime. And once you're in that, very, very difficult to get out of it. Very difficult indeed.
Yeah.
Because you're not dealing with people, you are dealing with technology. You won't be able to speak to anyone on a telephone. Everything will be computerized. Electronic voices. You won't speak to a human being, you'll speak to a piece of machinery.
You already do.
It will be more so.
Yeah.
And the only way we will stop it is if we rise up and say, no, we're not having it.
Mm.
I'm quite happy being a human being. I don't want someone messing around with my brain
No, neither do I.
and telling me what I will do and what I won't do. I want free speech and free choice. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
Well, it is too much to ask if you're the government.
Oh,
They think,
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Oh no, you plebs, you can't be doing normal things. We can't allow you to do things.
You see, it's total Hunger Games society. There's teenage films.
Mm.
Totally, it's been modelled on that.
I have to rewatch The Hunger Games. I've only ever watched it once, and it's a very long film.
Yes,
It's a very long film. You've watched it, I assume, then?
yes, yes.
They've got quite a few iterations out now.
Mhm.
Just go with the first one. The remakes are always terrible.
Which is, yes, yes.
I mean,
They should
we were
leave
having a
them alone.
conversation. They were thinking about doing a remake of Sophie's Choice.
Oh, ridiculous. That marvellous film, which said so much. So much. I dread to think how they will butcher it, but you know those camps regarding Sophie and Sophie's choice, where you had to choose between
things
which
really
one of your
happened.
children.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, of course they did.
Based on the true story.
Where you had to choose between which of your children would go to the death camp and which one would survive. And Sophie is on the train, and the train stops at the camp, and she has to choose between one of her children. She chose the boy to live, and they snatched the little girl out of her arms and put her on the train to be destroyed. Very, very heavy film, but very, very well done. And I don't see a lot of difference today. I don't see any difference at all, in fact. But the thing is, people do not know the urgency. We can't say, well, look, just wait and see what happens, you know, this year with this new government. They seem to be talking along good lines. No, don't listen to them. No, we have to act. The time is now. Now, not next week, not the week after, now. We have to rise and say, we are not having this. You get rid of these smart cities. You get rid of these smart meters and everything smart. And Bill Gates and Elon Musk, no, I'm sorry, you will not put up these 5Gs to control us and make us very, very ill. No, I'm sorry, you won't do that. And if necessary, a lot of us should tear them down. Now.
Okay.
There is no time. No time. Gonna miss you.
Well, I'll still see you. Don't worry about it. We'll still do our, you know.
We will.
We've
have
got
to.
things in the works.
We
we
have,
won't say
yeah.
anything yet, but
No.
there's
No,
we've got plans.
we really are trying, and we won't give up trying either.
Definitely not.
We can't. We can't. Even if we wanted to, we can't. God
Well-
bless you. God bless you, all of you out there. Please, please, don't just think of what we said. Please act on it. Because your lives are at stake and your children's. For these children to grow up into the world that they have planned is unthinkable. Totally unthinkable.
It's hard stuff, the things we talk about.
I don't think there is anything harder out there today than what we are talking about. I really don't. Because it is that serious. That a handful of people should have got into a position to control the world the way they are doing. And that we have allowed them to get into that position. The fault is ours, not theirs. No. It is our fault.
I don't know what to say. Shall we go to this, just so we have a break, and then come back strong?
Yes, very strong.
All right, here we go. This is Tall Tales, I believe, part 3. Part 1 was when he got chased by a bear down a mountain. I think this is the flying
poor
one.
Keith.
Yeah. He's certainly had a lot of interesting experiences in his life.
Oh yes, he has lived life to the full.
Yeah.
To the very, very full. And good luck to him. And he's still going.
All right. Well, this is his tales about flying, I believe. All right. Here we go.
I was only 18 when I set off for Canada. It was a long way to go. It goes on 5,000 to 6,000 miles, all on my own, and a real adventure. And the first year was pretty good. I spent the 2 semesters as required at the university, and then I got a job for the summer. And I went out into the Rocky Mountains between 2 small communities, at least in those days they were small communities, called Revelstoke and Golden. Wild, it was wild. And my job was to help build the Trans-Canada Highway between those 2 points, because there was no road there. The only way in was by rail, a train that had been built many, many years, almost a century before. Well, not the train itself, but the tracks. And I remember on that first journey, getting off the train at a place called Stony Creek. I thought I was at the ends of the earth. It was raining. There was mud and streams flowing down the mountainside. There was nobody there. And there I stood beside the track, watching my safe train, which only came once a week, disappear into the mountainside. You've no idea how you feel in that first few days. But it was very fortuitous, because I learned a number of things in that space of 2 or 3 months that I worked in the Rocky Mountains. I still got an English haircut. On the odd occasion, I wore my school blazer with the mitre on. It's English. I was English in a Canadian setting. And boy, didn't they know it. And I would go into the bunkhouse, and on one occasion, I reached for the gravy jug, and because the chap had a very heavy accent who was sitting opposite to me and said, "That's not gravy," I didn't understand. So I smiled at him and poured the gravy all over this wonderful meal, to find out that it was chocolate sauce. Chocolate sauce sitting on the table when in fact you've got potatoes and meat in front of you. Oh, that was a learning curve. And the same chap said a little later, he said to one of his companions, "You sure can tell that young fellow is English, can't you?" And I thought, well, yeah, I suppose you can. And he said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "Because he eats his pie with a spoon." Canadians always eat with a fork. What a giveaway. Never mind the blazer, never mind the haircut. But it was that summer that my actual athletic prowess really came out. Because I broke the half-mile record and the high jump record within minutes of each other. And I also, not sure it was a record, but did pretty well in the weightlifting department. That was a few days later. But first of all, it's the half-mile record. When you go to work in these camps, there's not much to do. You work, you sleep, you eat, and after a month or 2, you get out and you pick up your check. Very nice it is too. But on a Sunday, no television, no limited books, no newspapers. They would probably come midweek. So you just hung around, and it was very boring. Understanding that and needing work done, the camp bosses would say, "Would you like to earn some more money?" As a university student, wow, would I like to earn some more money? And you got time and a half for working on a Sunday. It's rather nice. So this particular Sunday, I was deputed to go up the mountainside and to start digging little potholes to see whether we could hit gravel, stones that they could use to lay on the bed of the road which we were building. So off I trotted, hey-ho, shovel slung over my shoulder. clambered up the mountainside, found a suitable place to start to dig holes, and started to dig away. After a little while, I heard some stones being loosened up on the railway track. I paid no attention at all, because there was a railway gang that lived, yes, they stayed up in a little hut on the railway site. And they, like us, had nothing to do on a Sunday, so they would earn some extra money going out, testing the track, and that sort of thing. That's who I thought it was. I continued to merrily dig away at my hole, hoping that I would hit gravel pretty soon. It was back-breaking work. And then I looked up to see a huge grizzly bear coming down the mountainside, his beady eyes fixed on me. I hadn't had lunch yet. He was determined to have his lunch, and I was it. I threw the spade down, and I took off down the mountainside. Now I was dressed in work clothes. I had big work boots on. They came way up past my ankles. They got thick soles. They were leather. They were toe-capped with hard stuff, so that if you dropped anything on them, you wouldn't crush your feet. And I took off down the mountainside at a great rate of knots. The spring runoff was still there. Water was still cascading down the mountain. So the mud must have been, good 2 or 3 feet deep at some stages. I managed to avoid disappearing into the mud altogether. But at the side of the track, down the mountain I went, lickety-split, determined that this grizzly was not going to have me for lunch that particular day. I came round a bend in the track, and there was a D9 Caterpillar tractor. Now, if you've never been on a construction site and you've never seen a D9 Caterpillar tractor, they are huge. They are huge. And they stand about a story and a half. So if you look at a small house and try to guess that you're looking at just below the bedroom window, that's about the height 7, 8 feet. The driver said that I did not touch his vehicle. I did not touch the bulldozer in leaping into the seat beside him and clutching him, trembling with fear that this grizzly was going to come around and find that the D9 Caterpillar tractor was no obstacle whatsoever, and he would have double lunch. He'd have both of us. The old Caterpillar driver, the tractor driver, of course, had been around for a long time, and he was killing himself with laughter that I'd come down the mountainside at such a rate. But he swore that I did not touch his vehicle, that I leapt from the ground and I got into the seat beside him. So I'd done 7 feet. And even in those days, the high jump record was only about 6 feet something. So there I had set one record. But I previously set the record for the half mile, because it had been about half a mile that I'd raced down the mountain to get out of the way of the grizzly who wasn't stopping. He was coming after me. and he was determined, as grizzly bears can be, to have me as a meal. So in talking to the driver later and figuring out at what time I actually saw the grizzly, to what time I reached his tractor, we figured that I beat the half-mile record by a good 5 or 6 seconds. So two records in one afternoon. And believe me, when the adrenaline gets going, it's amazing how it pumps you. It's amazing that you can do all sorts of things which you wouldn't do ordinarily. And it was a grizzly that helped me achieve this marvelous record-breaking feat. And afterwards, I felt quite good about it, except, apart from the driver, there was nobody to confirm what I'd done. So I never, ever got a gold medal, a silver medal, or a bronze medal for breaking this record. All I got was a giggle from the driver, and perhaps a little self-satisfaction of knowing that I had been as speedy as I had, even though I was driven by a grizzly bear. And if you say, oh, well, was it a grizzly bear? Yeah, you can tell a grizzly. It's not only his size, but a grizzly, unlike any other bear, has a hunch, a hump, just behind his head. So it is easy to identify. Later on, I learned that black bears you can frighten off a little. The only time to worry about a black bear is if it's got its young with them. It is very protective of its cubs, or if it's ill, in which case it will pay no notice. But I later on managed to control black bears and brown bears with very little problem, bravely waving my hands. But this was my first experience in the wild with a wild animal who was ready to be feral. He wasn't going to take a polite young Englishman who said, I'm terribly sorry to disturb you. Seriously, he wanted me. A few days later, I was working around the camp when the foreman came and said, Keith, go with Joe over there, take this pump and take it up about 100 yards above the camp, because there is a spring there. And later somebody will come and they will attach the pump to the spring and we can have some fresh water. The pump, I don't know, is 80, 90, 100 pounds. It was heavy. Joe grabbed one side of it and I grabbed the other. We could just about manage it. And we went up to the spot designated by the foreman, found the spring, and as I was about to put down, or together we were about to put down this huge pump, I heard a rustle in the trees behind me, and I looked around, and here was this great big teddy bear face gazing through the greenery at me. Now, I suspect this was not a grizzly this time, but it was a brown bear, but I didn't know the difference at the time. And anyway, all I could see was its face, and it was a teddy bear face, and it was looking at me. We'd obviously disturbed the bear when he was looking for various bits of greenery and nuts and so on and so forth to solve his hunger problem, but I didn't know that. I yelled at Joe, "Bear!" and took off back to the camp. I didn't break any speed records, I don't think, but when I got back to the camp, I realized I'd left Joe well behind. But the pump was still in my hand. I'd carried what it took two of us, struggled two of us, to take up to the spring. I'd brought back on my own because the adrenaline had flown and the fear factor had kicked in. He said I performed superhuman feats. Well, what an athletic summer that was. And I'm happy to say that as it did go on, I learned a bit more about the wildlife. And although I, to this day, would be very careful about meeting a bear in the wild, generally speaking, unless it's a grizzly, and don't mess with a grizzly, then what you would find is that the other bears are as shy of you as you are of them, and a little arm waving, and you can get rid of them. And actually much later, many years later, I lived on a steelhead trout fishing river in North Vancouver. I had 3 acres and a beautiful house, and it was right at the base of the mountains. I had a Great Dane, which is a wonderful dog, very affectionate, but also very protective. I was fiddling around on the banks of the river one day, and once again I heard a rustle. Didn't pay too much attention. And then I looked up, and here was a huge black bear coming towards me. Well, I'd learned my lesson this time, hadn't I? I raced towards him, yelling, "Bear! Bear!" waving my arms and sort of, "Go away!" Actually, I wasn't as polite as that. I was saying to him, "Push off." And at the same time, yelling to my wife, "Get the dog in, get the dog in," because my fear was that the Great Dane would come rushing out, would protect me. The bear would, with one swipe, break the dog's neck. Bears are terribly powerful animals. But instead, the bear took one look at me when he became aware of me waving my arms, put his nose in the air, sniffed, and sort of said, "You're not worth bothering with," and ambled back into the orchard and paid absolutely no attention. Luckily, my wife had kept the dog in, so both the dog and I were saved on that particular afternoon. But if you really want to be athletic, get yourself into a situation where a grizzly is coming at you, because believe me, the adrenaline will kick in. And if you can possibly record it on your camera, on your phone nowadays, while you're doing that, you can prove that you will beat world records. In my case, the half mile and the high jump, all in a space of a couple of minutes or so. Well, that was my first experience in a summer in Canada, and I had many more, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to tell you about some of them. Till then, toodle bit.
And we're back. So we've got about 15 minutes left of the show, and
It's quite freezing in here. That's why I'm done off in a coat.
yeah. But you,
Now, in the other room, they've got a lovely log fire. But, oh
Sorry,
dear, are
yeah,
you
but-
dying, dear?
no, I'm not. But I'm not feeling well.
Oh, you poor lamb.
Sorry. Continue.
Oh dear. No, he'll be fine. He'll be just fine.
So, did you want to talk about off the air? We were speaking about
Scientology.
Scientology. That's it.
Yes, that real dodgy organisation that people seem to be obsessed with.
Have you ever met a Scientologist?
One little girl who tried to convert me in America.
Oh, in America, of
But,
course.
no,
California.
Yes.
Oh, what a
yes.
surprise!
Yes, there's sort of a lot of them are at it over there, aren't they? Tom Cruise and
Did she know who you were first of all before she tried to?
no.
No? Was it a
she
door-to-door thing?
didn't. No, actually, she was a waitress in a cafe that I used to go to. And
Did she
they're
know-
very friendly people.
Yeah.
You know, they all talk.
Oh, God, Americans talk
are
endlessly.
lovely. They're
Yeah.
gorgeous people. And I got into conversation with her and said she said she was a Scientologist.
I've never met anyone who is a Scientologist
No.
or was. I've met Jehovah's Witnesses, multiple, and I was born a Mormon, and then we got kicked out of the church, which is a funny story. And then we went to the Christian church, and then we got kicked out of that as well. That was also quite funny.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think-
religions hasn't gone well in my family.
No, it's I find all these religions, all they want is your money.
Well, yeah, my mum was
I
on
mean-
benefits at the time.
And
Well,
they charged her money, didn't
when she was
they?
in the Mormon church, she was on benefits, and they take 10% of your income before tax. Before tax.
Well, I
and
see
she
no
was on-
different to the government. These religions are just like the government. All they want is your money. And it's run by fear. If you leave us, terrible, dreadful things will happen to you. And you can't talk to this person, you can't talk to that person. I mean, it's just like a communist government. And sign a contract to say
Almost
that you'll
like-
give a portion of your wages every week, no matter what your circumstances. But I
Yeah.
mean, if you go to them and say, listen, I'm running on very, very hard times, could you spare a few quid? It's piss off, isn't it?
So they take 10% of your money before tax, the Mormon church. And my mum was on benefits at the time, and they still took 10% of her benefits.
And that is a church.
A church, yeah. And the Jehovah's Witnesses ones, they're a weird bunch, because do you know how many Jehovah's Witnesses there are worldwide?
No, I don't.
Around 2.5 million.
Good God.
Do you know how many seats there are in heaven for Jehovah's Witnesses?
How many?
200,000.
200,000 seats.
Yes.
Oh, so you've got to behave to get one of those seats
Well,
then.
To get one of those
Yes.
seats, the reason they go knocking on your door to door, is because you have to. The more people you convert in your lifetime, the likelier you are to get into heaven. That's why they do the knocking on the doors.
Yes, well, I don't see a lot of difference between, these kids, how they brainwash them to go out with bombs tied to them
I feel much better after that.
and all that. And there's 17 virgins waiting for you when you get to heaven. I mean, there's not a lot of difference between these religions.
I think there's a big difference between, the Catholic Church and Islam. I think there's a big difference between them. The fundamentals of pray to God and you'll be okay, sure. Yeah, no, that's all the same. But the actual values, totally different.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't be further apart. I
Mm.
disagree with that, what you said.
Well, I don't know, but I do think religion causes a great deal of problems. I think it must be very nice to have some sort of faith. I have my faith. I believe in the forces of good and the forces of evil.
Mm.
And I think we call on those forces at certain times in our lives.
Yeah.
Right now, we're in a force of tremendous evil. Tremendous evil. And the forces of good, hopefully, will triumph.
Yeah.
If there's enough of us.
If there's enough of us.
Yes. Yes.
Well, that's why we're here. Hopefully, one
Hopefully.
day there will be enough of us.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it's we've got about 5 minutes left
Hmm.
of the show. That's gone, but the last part of that has gone by quickly, actually.
Very quickly. Yes.
But I did want to ask you, as always, what has been, in your opinion, the most important thing we've spoken about today?
I think the Peter Hitchin story, that he has finally got the courage to maybe stick his toe in the truth.
Yeah. About time.
The most important thing we have discussed was when I said there is no time anymore. It's now. The time is now. This to me is the most important thing, and this is what I came here to say.
Yeah. Well, just as a reminder, next week will be our last show here live in
Yes.
Mirador from the White Hart.
Do, 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 da, dee, da, da, la, da, 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 dee. You're going on to good things.
Well, next week is the last week, but we have our Christmas party next week as
Yes,
well.
got the Christmas party to look forward to.
That's going to be pre-recorded. now,
Yes.
so it should go very well, and then it'll be uploaded on the Friday if everything goes to plan, which I'm sure it will.
I'm sure it will.
I'm sure everything will go to
Yes.
plan. But yeah, it's I've been at Mirador for 9 months. I've enjoyed my time here. But,
Well, you've made
uh,
friends. You've been appreciated. We all love you.
and I got this just through luck. It was my college, DV8 at the time, went to local media outlets and said, "Can you take on some of our students as a work experience?" And Keith said, "Yes, I'll take 2 of your students." And took me and one other kid, Trey, who left fairly quickly after he joined. But I've enjoyed it here. It's been 9 months, and it was just a complete luck. And my college said, "Well, we've got Max. We'll send him there. We think he's the best fit." And yeah, they were right.
It's fate.
Yeah.
Fate took a hand.
Well, I wasn't even supposed to take media as a course. I was supposed to take event management. And because of COVID, it shut that down because there were no events to manage. But so it's all been a big coincidence and all luck, really,
Yes.
on all of this. But nevertheless, I've enjoyed my time.
Well, I know everyone's enjoyed working with you here.
Yeah, I've met a lot of interesting people.
You're a baby man. We adore you.
Well, just through random people coming through the White Hart, had some interesting characters, haven't
Absolutely.
we? Yeah, there's been some interesting characters here.
But you're going on to meet more and more interesting characters.
Yeah.
Your life is just starting to click in, and there's a big future for you out there. I don't know what that future is, but I know it's something important. When I first met you, there was some radiation about you. You're special. Special people do special things.
All right. Thank you. Well, yeah, but the characters that have come through the White Hart. I mean, we had here in August. We had Father Christmas. You remember him?
Oh yes, indeed.
And we had
Oh, they were incredible.
and we had the other guy with all the tattoos. Who I'll quote him. He had a troubled youth, is what he said. And then I got talking after the show had finished and found out about that troubled youth.
Oh, yeah,
It
very troubled.
was yeah, troubled. Yeah. Who else we had? I mean, we had the guy from the World Economic Forum come here.
Yes.
That was very interesting. 2 days ago, we had someone who knew and had met Jacinda Ardern.
Oh.
Just these people,
For
and these
her
people just
sins,
happen to be walking through the White Hart.
Yes, yeah.
I love these people. It's really interesting. I do like the White Hart Hotel. I'm gonna miss it a lot.
Well, you'll
Yeah,
come
all-
back and
all-
see us because
yeah,
we'll
no,
always
obviously.
be here.
But the staff here are brilliant.
Yes, they are. They're lovely, lovely people. I've known most of them for, many years.
You've known Jane for a long, long time.
Long time, yes. I remember coming
How long
here.
have you lived here?
I've been back in Lewis for 33 years now.
So when was the first time you came here? Do you remember?
Well,
To the
over
White
that
Hart.
time, it came here to the restaurant before people have it.
So you
There's been
probably
several
met.
different owners.
So you probably met Jane 30 years ago now.
Oh, yeah, very possibly. Very, very possibly, yes.
she's
And I've
been
seen
here.
her children grow up,
And she's got
Now she has
grandchildren.
grandchildren now. But I remember coming here 12 years ago when I was really very, very ill. Very ill. And they didn't expect me to live. And it took a long time to recover from what I had experienced health-wise. And I started using the pool here. And these kids behind the jump there, that took care of the pool, they were very, very young. And they were so kind to me. I've never experienced such kindness. They protected me like I was their mother or something like that, Absolutely wonderful. And then they would leave, and then you'd get a new bunch come. And now my taxi driver, I see him all the time. He was one of them. He got big grown-up kids now.
Well, I've heard people say when I've mentioned to other people like, the staff there are very good, and I've heard people mention in the past saying, oh, well, of course they're a hotel, of course the staff should be good, but the staff here really do go above and beyond.
They do.
They really
Yes.
But on that note, I think it's time to end the show. Thank you so much
Okay.
for joining me, and
No.
yeah, I'll
Thank
see you
for
next week.
inviting me.
That's all right. I always enjoy Thursdays. We'll see you next week, I guess. It'll be our last show.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for watching. Here at 8:30 tomorrow morning, and then at 10 o'clock, Melissa Conti will be joining him remotely not from New York, actually, for a change. She's in Guildford right now, and
Well, isn't she going to come here and
yes,
see
I'm
us?
going to be meeting her next week on Thursday.
Oh, brilliant.
So we're
Lovely.
going to get to meet her in person.
Terrific.
But
Well, maybe I'll meet her too.
yeah, you will.
Thursday. Yeah, that would be very nice to meet that lady.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me on the show today.
Thank you. Thank
All
you, Max. You're gonna go
Oh,
away and I'm
fine.
gonna cry. And
Well,
you're gonna
no,
be
we're still
all
doing the
fine.
show. We're still doing the show, just through a different
I know.
meaning.
I'm being silly. Listen,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. We love you dearly and can't thank you enough for tuning in and listening to us. God bless you. The
All
lot of you.
Bye.